weekend. We'll see you Monday, Memorial Day. Take care. Here's CBS.
International security without respect for human rights.
From Finland, President Reagan speaks to the Soviets of tolerance and human rights. The Kremlin listens and doesn't like all it hears. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting again tonight from inside the Kremlin, where the summit is 2 days away and the sting of President Reagan's latest words is already here. In Washington, the U.S. Senate finally ratified the Reagan-Gorbachev intermediate-range missile deal signed at the December summit. In Helsinki, Finland today, Mr. Reagan tried to shift the focus away from arms control and from talk that he has gone soft on the Soviets. He prodded the Soviets to widen the boundaries of tolerance, more tolerance of political dissenters and religious believers. This turns up the heat on Mikhail Gorbachev. Bill Plant begins our coverage.
By speaking in the same hall in which the Helsinki Human Rights Accords were signed 13 years ago, President Reagan signaled that the same concerns will be at the top of his list when he meets with Mikhail Gorbachev Sunday in Moscow. Mr. Reagan alternated his now usual mix of praise and criticism for the Soviets, first hailing Gorbachev's progress.
He talks of glasnost and perestroika, openness and restructuring, words that to our ears have a particularly welcome sound. And since he began his campaign, things have happened that all of us applaud.
But the president followed immediately with questions about what has not been accomplished in the area of human rights.
It's difficult to understand why cases of divided families and blocked marriages should remain on the East-West agenda, or why Soviet citizens who wish to exercise their right to emigrate should be subject to artificial quotas and arbitrary rulings.
Secretary of State George Shultz further dramatized administration concern by meeting with American Jews who are here trying to pressure Moscow to relax restrictions on Soviet Jews.
And we really can't see for the life of us why people shouldn't be allowed to live their lives the way they want to live them, to worship as they want to worship.
Despite the remaining difficulties with Moscow, though, the very fact that Ronald Reagan is headed for his fourth meeting with Gorbachev shows how much Mr. Reagan's view of the U.S.-Soviet relationship has changed. The president, who today lavished praise on the Helsinki Accords,
the final act sets new standards of conduct for our nations,
is the same Ronald Reagan who, when the Helsinki Agreement was signed 13 years ago, called on all Americans to oppose it. This president, who came into office referring to the USSR as an evil empire, will likely leave office with superpower relations more relaxed than ever. His aides say it's not President Reagan who's altered course, it's the communists in the Kremlin.
I don't think Ronald Reagan has changed. I don't think he's changed his attitude about the Soviet Union. I think what has happened is this. I think that the president has made America worth dealing with again.
But a critic does see change in Mr. Reagan and says it's the influence of moderate advisors.
I don't think Reagan ever was a rigid ideologue of any kind. Reagan's problem has not been rigidity, but being terrifically flexible depending on who was in the same room with him.
Whatever the cause of Mr. Reagan's shift, its effect is to make it almost impossible for any other presidential candidate to do what he did, to run against the evil empire. Bill Plant, CBS News, with the president in Helsinki.
The yeas are 93. The nays are 5.
And with that, the U.S. Senate gave its overwhelming advice and consent to the first approved American-Soviet arms pact in 16 years.
I ask unanimous consent that the President of the United States be immediately notified that the Senate has given its consent.
The president was already calling from Helsinki to invite the leaders to Moscow for next week's ratification ceremony.
We're just delighted that we're going to send you a treaty. And it's going to be almost a unanimous vote.
We're very pleased to be able to give you this in advance of your stepping on the Soviet territory in Moscow.
Hardline conservatives were not pleased with this treaty. However, they were unable to kill it. But their real effort was to send a warning signal to the Reagan administration that they're ready to do battle with their own president if he comes up with another treaty on long-range missiles based in the U.S. and Soviet Union. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Joining me here tonight and throughout our coverage inside the Kremlin, my colleague Charles Carroll.
The Kremlin didn't take kindly to President Reagan's speech, Dan. The government-controlled media here fired right back with an attack on the Reagan administration's record on human rights, asserting that there are 11,000 political prisoners in the United States.
What the president did today is exactly the kind of thing that could give Gorbachev a lot of trouble inside his own country, because despite all the talk of perestroika, glasnost, make no mistake, the Communist Party runs the country. There's no diminution of the party's role. This is still a one-party town and a one-party country. Some steps are being taken toward change. In some ways, it's a Soviet society marching toward a more open future. In other important ways, still very much marching in place. Tolerance. Mikhail Gorbachev is trying to transform Soviet society, acknowledging some mistakes of the past, releasing some political prisoners, encouraging some criticism from the press, and talking of greater freedom for religion. For many, his message is confusing. While the talk is of democratization, it is, as Gorbachev himself says, only within the boundaries of socialism. The result, those seeking change may find it impossible to break the party's monopoly on ideas.
Tolerance exists only for officially sanctioned or officially pronounced ideas.
Alexander Lukashov is an organizer of the Democratic Union. It wants an alternative to one-party rule. But while approved Soviet newspapers can call for limits on the communist system, just this month the union's meetings were disrupted, and at a later gathering, its founders arrested.
Right now, people want to have their basic rights. The right to choose, not only the right to choose opinions, but a choice of organizations.
The radical gadfly editor of a magazine ironically called Glasnost recently found himself in jail for a week. The charge, quote, resisting authorities. The militia came to break up a meeting in his office of a group he wasn't even a member.
They took our Toshiba, they took our printer, they destroyed the entire archives of the publishing house. And that is a wonderful modern understanding of rights in the Soviet Union.
The magazine Glasnost is out of business, at least for now. Mikhail Shlinov is a Jewish scholar who doesn't want to leave the Soviet Union, but wants the freedom to teach his heritage to other generations. Under Gorbachev, he was able to form the Jewish Cultural Organization. But now they're caught in a catch-22. They're no longer prohibited from meeting, but since they are not an official organization, no one will rent them a hall.
But the things have not changed drastically. The atmosphere, the world, yes, in a very drastic way. The things, the reality, not yet.
The reality is that even if the communist state were to protect individual rights aggressively, many of its people are not prepared to tolerate diversity. Just days ago, this Jewish cemetery was desecrated. It points to the basic problem within the society. Schooled in intolerance for so long, many Soviets equate nonconformity with treason.
People are scared. They can't forget 70 years of terror, fear, and pressure.
Gorbachev has inherited both an old guard and a fearful society. His challenge? To prevent them from reversing what limited tolerance he has already allowed. This edginess inside and outside the Kremlin about pushing the limits of tolerance is underscored in a remarkable new poll of Moscow public opinion. Charles, I think we should point out that we have no delusions about this poll. No one claims it's completely reliable or even very scientific, but it is a poll taken for us by sociologists at the Soviet Academy of Sciences.
They telephoned 900 people in Moscow after choosing the telephone numbers at random. And on the questions of freedom of the press and the right to air grievances, there was a divergence of opinion. 3/4 of the people who were polled said, yes, the Soviet press should delve more deeply into controversial issues. But only 1/3 thought citizens should have the right to air their grievances in public.
And those polled had some pretty strange ideas of what they believe the American way of life is. They think they treat their children better, and they think that housing's better in the Soviet Union. They're, of course, peppered in their press with images of homeless Americans and jobless Americans. Truth is, as Barry Peterson reports now, there are homeless in this country, inside the Soviet Union, where everyone is supposed to get according to his needs, and there are jobless in this workers' paradise.
These are the faces of the Soviet Union you are not supposed to see because these people don't officially exist.
I eat the sausage meat that Muscovites give to their dogs.
The homeless live in public buildings of a society that claims it has housed everyone.
I've been living as a terminal for 1 year.
The unemployed earn a few kopecks selling empty bottles in a society that claims it has given everyone a job.
The government says there is no homeless, no unemployed, but there is a huge army of people forced to be out of work.
Soviet citizens carry a book listing all the jobs they have had, need official permission to get housing in a city. Yet many come to Moscow without a chance to get jobs or housing because there is more food, better services than in the provinces. Our poll shows that 89% of Soviets believe they have a better guarantee of getting a job than people in America. But that may change. An example, perestroika, the economic restructuring, has cost 3,500 jobs as this auto factory modernizes. The state promises retraining and new jobs.
I think that we will have 2-3 very difficult years ahead.
But some insist they want work and can't get it. Nina Shumilka lost her job because she criticized party policy.
No one is helping us. We want this issue discussed at the summit.
They reach out for help, but their government must swallow its pride and admit there is a problem before it can reach back. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
Charles and I will have more from inside the Kremlin a little later. Bob Schieffer in New York will have today's other major stories in a moment.
A group of hand-picked professionals have gathered for a close look at a surprising Honda. Engine efficiencies suggest remarkable power. Acceleration is actually controlled through the operator's fingertips. The Honda HT Series Lawn Tractor. It's one Honda you won't see on the road.
What harm can a little water do? The damaging effects of water and time have always been wood's enemy. Introducing new Rust-Oleum Wood Saver Paint, a special wood formula with Teflon for twice the moisture protection of ordinary paint. So if it's going to get wet, get Rust-Oleum.
This diver has a thin, powerful seal, but it's not on his mask. It's on his dentures. A seal so thin, so powerful, that more than any ordinary adhesive, Extra Hold Fast Teeth holds closer to real.
They wanted this to be a vacation they'd never forget. And it was. So don't carry cash. Carry American Express traveler's checks. Don't leave home without them.
The Syrian army marched into the Beirut suburbs today and stopped the turf war that's been raging all month between rival Muslim militias. This has raised new hopes for the safety and freedom of foreign hostages believed to be in the area somewhere. Bill McLaughlin reports.
Syria finally made its move today, sending hundreds of troops into Beirut's battered southern slums to enforce a ceasefire. For civilians who were trapped in the middle of 3 weeks of bitter house-to-house fighting, the Syrian deployment meant it was safe to leave their shelters. They were clearly happy to see the Syrians and talk about what they've been through.
It was just a storm of fire made by animals.
Syria felt confident enough today to sponsor a press trip into the southern slums. It resulted in a rare glimpse of one of the world's most dangerous terrorists. This man, Abdul Hamadi, the mastermind of several plane hijackings. The man believed to hold some of the foreign hostages. It's believed most of the 9 American hostages are being held somewhere in this area. But reliable sources say Syria has warned Washington that any attempt to rescue them would almost certainly result in their deaths. There were rumors today that some of the hostages might be freed soon, but there were no facts to support the rumors. Syria's main goal has nothing to do with the hostages. It is to stop these men, the fanatical pro-Iranian militiamen of Hezbollah. Reportedly led by Iranian Revolutionary Guardsmen, they have won almost total control of the 41-square-mile southern district from Syria's moderate ally, the Amal movement. And their victory has given Iran a big voice in Lebanon's affairs. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, London.
A Maltese freighter is the latest casualty in the Persian Gulf tanker war. Iranian gunboats attacked the vessel in the Strait of Hormuz today, setting it on fire and forcing the South Korean crew to abandon ship. The Iranians then fired on a helicopter chartered by CBS News when it approached the freighter. The chopper was not hit. Another vid, Mises top aides quit today. Charles Cooper, an assistant attorney general. Unlike other recent resignations, Cooper insists that his has been planned for some time and has nothing to do with the controversy over Mises' legal problems. 63-year-old former Miss America Bess Meyerson was arrested for shoplifting today in South Williamsport, Pennsylvania. She was charged with trying to steal $44 worth of earrings, nail polish, and some batteries. Ms. Meyerson is already under indictment on charges of trying to improperly influence a judge. In ceremonies that began at sunrise today, members of the Army's 3rd Infantry Division placed flags at the foot of every marker in Arlington National Cemetery outside Washington. More than 175,000 veterans and their dependents are buried at the Arlington Cemetery. Dan will be back with more news from inside the Kremlin in just a moment.
Good morning.
Day's looking new and bright.
It's Monday again.
And you're gonna start it right.
Traffic's tied up.
Cause there's Folgers for you that's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mornings brighten with mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. Mountain-grown coffee beans have a more enticing aroma.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Decaffeinated.
This may sound strange, but if I hadn't had a heart attack, I wouldn't be here today. I am doing fine, and I learned something you ought to know. There's a whole lot of proof that a diet low in saturated fats and cholesterol can help keep your heart healthy. Fleischmann's has 0 cholesterol, 0, zip, none. I changed after my heart attack. What are you waiting for?
Fleischmann's. It does your heart good.
This is where we make the new 3M surgical clipper by Remington. Hospitals are now replacing blades to shave patients for surgery. You can also benefit from this advanced technology with the Remington microscreen. It shaves as close as a blade or your money back.
This is it. June 30th, the big date to beat in the American Family Publishers Sweepstakes. $10 million is at stake.
American Family's next $10 million.
That's right, so be sure to beat this date.
Somewhere near the bottom of the agenda at all these summit conferences is an item that just might be the most important of all in making friends between nations. It's called culture. The last 3 summits have produced a series of cultural exchange agreements, and more will be signed here in Moscow. What it means is that they get to come over and entertain us, and we get to come over and entertain them.
And then there has been a flowering of American culture in Moscow this spring. The Dance Theater of Harlem is here. They performed at the Kremlin Palace for an audience that is steeped, of course, in the classical ballet, and they got a terrific ovation. A troupe of American magicians is here to work the young audiences. And there's jazz, an American art form that the Russians fell in love with a long time ago, and they still can't get enough of it. Paul Horn is here, jamming with some Soviet saxophone players at a jazz club in Moscow.
The Soviets, naturally, are doing the same kind of thing in the U.S. From Washington, correspondent Wyatt Andrews has the other side of the culture coin.
For thousands of Americans, this is why summits have any relevance at all. Forget ballistic missiles, this is ballet in New York. This is basketball in Iowa. These are the thousands of small summit meetings Soviets and Americans now have every day, and they are the product of the first Reagan-Gorbachev summit held back in 1985. When the two leaders agreed to resume cultural exchanges at that summit, it seemed the desperate act of two men who had nothing else to do. While the experts called this just another photo op, that's not what they thought out in heartland America.
I never even dreamed that this day would be possible.
Since 1985, thousands of Soviets have been invited to every corner of the United States. Soviet teenagers attend U.S. high schools now. Soviet youngsters shop at our Five and Dime. The exchanges go beyond orchestra and ballet. A Soviet catamaran runs third in a race from Florida to Virginia. Folk dancers from Soviet Georgia perform to full houses in Vermont. This is no photo op. This is what the summits made possible out there in the real world.
They see how intrigued we are. I know my grandchildren's household, they're all excited about the hockey contest that they're involved in, and so on. And those are the things that consume people.
The administration knows what it wants from these exchanges. They want Soviets in our living rooms lounging in affluence. They want the Soviets to be impressed.
When I see skyscrapers, I want to return to the small, very small houses.
Здесь очень хорошие дома, маленькие, красивые. There's very nice women.
If this has revolutionized the superpower relationship, it has been a populist uprising. Russians are no longer so alien to fans who've seen them shoot jump shots or to teenagers who've helped teach them pinball. Next week, again, the cynics will say the summit is mostly a photo op. And once again, Heartland America won't believe it. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
Charles and I will be back in a moment with a big story, a larger-than-life story from inside the Kremlin.
X-Lax presents some gentle guarantees. The warmth of the new sun waking the sleep from your body. The cool freshness of the morning air. And now the peace of mind that comes from the X-Lax guarantee. Taken at bedtime, X-Lax is guaranteed to work gently, effectively, by 8 a.m. or your money back. So in this uncertain world, isn't it nice to know you can relax with a family friend? X-Lax, guaranteed to work by 8 a.m.
Up to $2,000 cash back from Subaru is worth more than the same money from anyone else. It's worth more because Subaru builds a rugged, reliable wagon that's the best-selling import wagon in America. It's worth more because Subaru's XT6 has the same engine design found in a Ferrari or a Porsche.
It's worth more because the Subaru Justy is the lowest-priced four-wheel drive passenger car in America.
Up to $2,000 cash back on a Subaru is worth more because it's on a Subaru.
More than 1 million people already own a Hoover Concept One. They're enjoying its deep cleaning quadriflex action, brushed edge cleaning, and its self-propelled effortless handling. So what are you waiting for? Concept One. Hoover keeps making it better.
When you buy Corning prescription lenses that change, it's like getting free light tints, free medium tints, dark tints, and a range of free sunglasses all in one. Corning lenses that change. The only eyeglasses you'll ever need.
Americans, and I guess particularly Texans, are supposed to be obsessed with size. The biggest cars, the biggest buildings, the biggest watermelons, etc. But when you come over here, you realize it would be awfully hard to top the Soviets in the bragging contest about bigness. And Charles, take this cannon. This thing is humongous. They call it the Tsar cannon. Said to be the largest caliber cannon in the world. I have no reason to doubt it. And it's been guarding the Kremlin since the threat to Moscow by the Tartars in 1586.
Yeah, the U.S. Army is very proud of its 155-millimeter howitzers. The Tsar's army had an 889-millimeter howitzer. We figured it out. This is it. We used to say, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. My question is, In 1586, how did they pass the ammunition? Look at the size of those things. They make everything big around here. Every town has a town green. This is the town green of Moscow, Red Square. It's big. They have a lot of big bells. This is one of them. Then they have a big bell, cast right here in the Kremlin in 1733. It weighs 200 tons. It's like the Tsar's cannon. It's the biggest bell in the world. Gigantism runs rampant in Moscow. The biggest country in the world feels it should have the biggest things in the world. If you're going to build a statue of a worker and a peasant, then build one. People can see from a distance. If you're going to build a department store, build one people can spend a few days in. This is GUM. Visitors go home to Kazakhstan and talk about GUM for the rest of their lives. If you're going to build a monument to the cosmonauts, well, it shouldn't be dinky, should it? This is the Institute of Computers and Computer Engineering. Be patient. We'll show you all of it in a minute. And this little inn, the Rossiya Bed and Breakfast on the Moscow River, is where we're all staying. It accommodates 6,150 guests. I am the 1,649th. My room is back here. When I want to leave the hotel, I walk this way. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Past all the people who have better rooms than I have. It's about a quarter of a mile. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. I get to this corner and turn and keep walking and get to the elevator and come down to the door. And right here is where I remember I forgot my notebook and have to go back to the room. Dan, the walk from the hotel over here to the Kremlin is nothing compared to the walk from my room to that front door.
True, and some of the fire extinguishers in the hallway are as big as torpedoes. That's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Our summit coverage will continue throughout the weekend, and Charles Kuralt and I will be here again Monday reporting from inside the Kremlin. Good night.
Tickets for Webb.
We interrupt this purchase for a reminder.
Here we go.
There's another decision worth entertaining.
Very smart.
Choosing the card that actually pays you cash. Cash back for every charge. The Discover card.
I'm starved.
It pays to discover the card that pays you back.
The Van Pattens and Friends talk convenience.
Today, everything is convenience.
Fast food, express banking.
And for oil, lube, and fluid service, there's Jiffy Lube.
In 10 minutes, the J-Team changes the oil.
Here comes the Pennzoil.
With quality Pennzoil. Replaces the filter, lubes the chassis.
And fills the fluids.
So if you want convenient car care,
welcome to Jiffy Lube.
We'll take care of you like family.
Thanks to Jiffy Lube, 90% of car care is half mental.
Uncle Charlie hasn't thought about his dentures all day, because he thought about Orifix this morning.
Orifix 'em. That'll fix 'em.
Orifix has extra hold to hold dentures tight day and night. Orifix 'em. That'll fix 'em.
Have you ever wondered what a baggage handler might take on vacation? What everyone should take. Samsonite's Glutton for Punishment.
This is CBS.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, police use a high school student working undercover to identify